Here is today's homework for Algebra 2, Day 2. We are going to begin by graphing complex numbers and finding the absolute value. Number 13, 2i is going to be over 0. 0 is the real number, and you're going to go up 2 units. And how far is that from the absolute value? How far is that? It is 2 units. So 2 is the absolute value. Number 14, where is obviously 5 plus 12i is going to be off the page here. But if you go over 5, and then you would go up 12 units. So we'll just pretend like that's 12. So how would you figure out how far that number is from 0? You're going to square 5, so 5 squared. So think of having a right triangle here. 5 squared plus 12 squared. You're going to add these, square these numbers, add them together, take the square root, and you'll get 13. So the absolute value is 13. Number 15, over 2 units and down 2 right here. And if you had to make a right triangle here, this is 2, this is 2. So squaring both of these and adding them together, take the square root, you get 2 root 2. And number 16, over 1 and down 4, right here. And we did this one in class. 1 squared plus 4 squared, 1 squared plus 4 squared is equal to c squared. C squared is 17, so c, the distance, the absolute value is square root of 17. The next set of problems, questions 33 through 38, you're asked to solve these. These ones don't have a middle term. So all you have to do is get your x squared by itself, and then take the square root of both sides, and you get plus or minus 5i. Number 34, you're going to subtract 1 and divide by 2. Square root of both sides. You get x is plus or minus the square root of 1 over the square root of 2. And then you have your I. But this one you want to rationalize the denominator. So you're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by square root of 2 over square root of 2. And the square root of 1 is 1. So your answer is going to be plus or minus root 2 over 2i. Number 35, you're going to subtract 2. So you have 3s squared is equal to negative 64. Then divide this by 3. And 3 does not go into 64, so you're just going to take the square root of both sides. And I do plus minus, and your I, that's the negative. And the square root of 64 is 8. And so you want to rationalize this denominator. So you've got plus or minus 8 over root 3i, and you don't want a radical in the denominator, so the answer is plus or minus 8 root 3 over 3i. That's this answer. Number 36, you're going to, since it's already by itself, take the square root of both sides, and you get plus or minus root 7i. Number 37, subtract 36. Square root both sides, and you get plus or minus 6i. And 38, add 3, divide by negative 5. So you get 3 over negative 5. So you're going to take the square root of both sides, and you get x is equal to plus or minus. Now you've got your I. Your I is going to come out, and you have to rationalize the denominator. So you're going to multiply the top and the bottom by root 5 over root 5. So it's root 15 over 5. The next set of problems have the middle term. So you're either going to use the quadratic formula, or you can complete the square. I would complete the square here because it's an even number. Subtract 3. Take half of 2, which is 1, and square it. We're going to add 1 to both sides. Factor and then take the square root of both sides. So you get x plus 1 equals plus or minus root 2I, and then subtract 1. Next one. You might want to use the quadratic formula for this one, because first of all, you have an a value that's not 1, and that's middle value is not an even number. So your quadratic formula is the opposite of b. You might want to write this down. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it's the opposite of negative 1 plus or minus 1 squared is 1 minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 3. All over 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. So if we simplify this, we get 9 times 4, which is 36, and 1 is 37. Okay, so let me double check. 1 squared is 1 minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 3. So this is going to be, I'm sorry, this is negative 36. 1 minus 36 is negative 35. Thought I had an error. Negative 35. Not my math error. Now, all you're going to have to do is take out the I, so it's negative 1 plus or minus root 35I over negative 6. Now these negatives will cancel and you end up with 1/6 plus or minus root 35 over I. So these two negatives can cancel out. The next one, I would also use the quadratic formula, because when you divide this by a 2, you're going to get a fraction. So let's just use the quadratic. It's the opposite of b. So it's 4 plus or minus negative 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 2 times negative 7. All over 2 times 2, which is 4. So we get 4 plus or minus 8 times 7 is 56. So let's double check. Negative 4 times a, and that is a plus 7. Maybe it's a minus 7. I'm not sure. I'm going to say it's a plus. So it's 16, 8 times 7 is 56 over 4. This is going to be 72. This is going to be 4 plus or minus root 72 over 4. And now the 72 is 8 times 9. 72 is 8 times 9 and 2, 2, 2. So it's 2 times 3, which is 6. 4 plus or minus 6 root 2 over 4. And you can take a 2 out of all three of these. So it's 2 plus or minus 3 root 2 over 2. That one did not have the I. That's if that's a plus. If it were a minus, actually, I made a mistake. It's A times B, 4 times A. If that's a 7, we have an error. I made a mistake right here. This should be, start over, 4 plus or minus, it's B squared minus 4 times A times C. It's 7. I don't know why I had negative 7 over 4. Let's start over. 4 plus or minus, my apologies, 16, that's minus 56. So this is going to be negative 40, right? Over 4, which this is going to be 4 plus or minus 2I root 10 over 4, and now a 2 comes out. So the answer should be, if you take a 2 out of all three of these, you get 2 plus or minus I root 10 over 2. And that is, it is a plus, it's not a minus. I wasn't sure. So my error here, that should be a plus, this should be a minus 56. Right here, it should be a minus 56. Very easy to make math errors. That's why I like completing the square. I'm going to complete the square on this one. Subtract 2. Half of this squared is 1. You're going to add 1 to both sides. So you get x minus 1 quantity squared equals negative 1. Square root of both sides. X minus 1 equals plus or minus I. And then add 1. So it's 1 plus or minus I. Number 43, this one, you're going to want to get your 4x to the other side. And for this one, I would definitely complete the square, subtract 5. Half of this squared is 4. You're going to add 4 to both sides. X minus 2 squared equals negative 1. Square root both sides. X minus 2 equals plus or minus I. And add 2. And for this one, I would FOIL or factor, the 2x. So you get 2x squared minus 6x equals negative 5. I'd bring negative 5 over and make it positive 5. And I would use the quadratic formula. X is equal to the opposite of b, so 6 plus or minus 30b squared, 36 minus 4 times 2 times 5, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. So you get 6 plus or minus, it'd be 36, 10 times 4 is 40, so 36 minus 40 is negative 4 over 2. So this is going to be plus or minus 2i, so it's 6 plus or minus 2i over 2, and if you simplify, you get 3 plus or minus 3 over 2, 3 plus or minus I. Okay, let me make sure, I did make another mistake. 4, I changed it to a 2, that's my bad. Okay, so it's 3 halves over plus 3 over 2 plus or minus 1 half I. Or you can just simplify this all by 2. 2 goes into all three of these. You get a 3 here, a 1 here, and a 2 here. So you could write 3 plus or minus I over 2. 3 plus or minus I over 2. Okay, the next set of, you have a graph here, and all I want you to do is label all of these points. You want to start with your real number and then your imaginary. So if you look at A is going over, let's just list them. A is over 5, and you're not going up or down, so it's going to be negative 5. You can write negative 5 plus 0i. Where's B? Here's B. You're going to go 3 plus 2i. C. Here is C. Over 2, down 1. So it's 2 plus 2 minus I. And you don't have to write the negative 1. You can just write minus I. D is right here. You're going to go over 0 but up 3i. E. Here's E. Here's negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 6 and then minus 4i. And we have F. F is negative 1 and it's plus 5i. I think we got them all. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? For the next one, you're going to solve 47. I would square, or FOIL this quantity here. You end up with x times x is x squared. And what you're going to have when you multiply the next two, negative 3xi and plus 3xi, those are going to cancel out. And then you have 3i times negative 3i is negative 9i squared. And we learned that I squared is equal to negative 1. So what you have here is x squared plus 9 equals 34. I would subtract 9. Equals, and you get 25. And then take the square root of both sides, and x is plus or minus 5. Okay, the next ones are a review of what we've been doing. For 48, you are going to multiply. You've got 8i times 4i times negative 9i. Well, you've got if you look at those two right there, this is going to give you 32i squared. 32i squared, which I squared is negative 1. So this is really negative 32. So what's negative 32 times negative 9i? Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, and your answer is going to be 288i. For 49, I would convert this to I and this to 4i. So you have 2 plus I plus negative 3 plus, make that 4i. You add your real numbers, which is negative 1, and add these, you get 5i. So this answer is negative 1 plus 5i. For 50, you're going to change negative 9 to 3i, so 4 plus 3i, and then plus 6 minus 7i, you get 10 minus 4i. So this is 10 minus 4i. Add like terms. And the next one, you have 10 plus 3i. We're going to subtract now 2 minus 5i. So you have to distribute. 10 minus 2 is 8. And 3i plus 5i is 8, is 3i plus 5i. 3i minus, there's my error right there. That should be a plus 5i. So 3i minus 5i is negative 2i. 52, you've got 8 minus I minus negative 3 plus 4i. So we have a negative negative, so that's going to turn into a positive. That'll be 11, and negative I minus 4i is negative 5i. So that answer is 11 minus 5i. 53, you're going to distribute. 2i times 5 is 10i, and 2i times negative 3i is negative 6i squared, which this turns to a plus 6. So it's 6 plus 10i. 54, you're going to distribute the negative 5 times 1, which is negative 5. And negative 5 times 2i is negative 10i. Plus 9i, distribute, minus 12i squared. Well, this is converting to 12. Negative 12 times negative 1 is 12. And 12 minus 5 is 7. And add these up, you get negative 1i. 55, I would convert this, I would make this 3 plus 2i times 4 plus I. And now they're telling you to FOIL. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times I is 3i plus 8i, which is 11i. And then plus 2i squared is really negative 2. So 12 minus 2 is 10 plus 11i. For 67, it says for two complex numbers to be equal, the real parts must be equal. So these two must be, these are your real parts. So 2x equals negative 14, and the imaginary parts must be equal to each other. So you have two equations. You've got 3yi equals 9i. For x, to solve for x, divide by 2 and you get negative 7. And to solve for y, these i's cancel, divide by 3, y is 3. So for these two complex numbers to be equal, x would have to be negative 7 and y would have to be 3. For 68, we're going to set 3x, the real numbers, to be equal to each other. 3x must equal 16 divided by 3, so x is 16 thirds. And 19i must equal negative 8yi. So you're going to cancel these i's and divide by negative 8, and y is 19 over negative 8. And the last one on this set, negative 14, the real parts, negative 14 equals 2x, so x would be negative 7. And we have negative 3i is equal to yi. The i's cancel, y is equal to negative 3. So for this one, x would have to be negative 7 and y would have to be negative 3 for these two complex numbers to be equal to each other. For 73, last question. How can you rewrite this expression in the form a plus bi? You would have to FOIL this. So what is 8 minus 5i times 8 minus 5i? You would square that quantity. 8 times 8 is 64. These two are going to give you, you have negative 40, and negative 40 is negative 80i. And then if you multiply these two, you get 25i squared, but this is equal to negative 25. So you have 64 minus 80i minus 25. Well, combine like terms, these two, if you add them together, you're going to get 39, and then you have minus 80i. So the correct answer would be letter B, 39 minus 80i. And that's in the A plus BI format. And we're done.